Welcome back to the Repro Review Show. I'm your host Doug, and today we're talking about a ROM hack of a Famicom exclusive game that now has a current event spin on an arcade classic. This is COVID-19. COVID-19 is a hack by John Riggs of a Famicom game called Route 16, which was a port of an arcade game. Whoa, this guy should not be enjoying driving that much. It's a pretty simple concept. You just drive around and grab bags of money, and when you collect them all, you progress to the next screen and start collecting more money. But just as the notorious prophet B.I.G. once said, the more money you come across, the more problems you see. You'll be up against more and more competitive cars that want to crash into you and take your loot, and apparently, your car is the most flimsy because they survive and you don't. Maybe they're all driven by Stuntman Mike.
This car is 100% death-proof. Only to get the benefit of it, honey, you really need to be sitting in my seat.
COVID-19 is a graphical hack of Route 16, done as such because the letters and numbers matched up pretty well. Right, easy peasy. There are two main playing fields through the game. There's the bigger map and many smaller maps that you need to navigate. You start on one of the smaller maps, and these are where the items that you need to collect are hidden. Each smaller map is a maze, some very straightforward, some more complicated, and one that is extremely racist. Yeah, I don't know how they overlooked that one. As you exit each smaller map, it zooms out and we see the whole playing field, which is just comprised of the smaller mazes. You're the small blue dot in this section, and the viruses are all red dots. You must find the gaps to enter each maze and find the items within. Your car, from Route 16, is replaced by a shopping cart, and instead of bags of money, you are out to get hand sanitizer and toilet paper. The opponent's cars are replaced with giant coronavirus strands, and you better believe they're chasing you down and will blow you up on contact. These small details are what changes the game. The main mechanics and general look of the game are essentially the same. The music doesn't change from level to level, but rather changes depending on what difficulty setting you're on, so that's a bit different from most games in my experience. Essentially, the objective is to gather all the things. It is a common objective in video games. In this case, the things are toilet paper, masks, and hand sanitizer. And when you have all the things, you go to the next level, which is a new large map, with more smaller maps with different mazes. Rinse and repeat. And of course, there's escalation.
Escalation.
Yeah, the viruses get craftier and faster. Just like the real-life COVID variants. How about that?
I'll look into it.
Important to note is that your shopping cart must have a motor installed because the moment you start moving, you don't stop until you've picked up all the items or you die. The biggest challenge of the game is navigating this ridiculous cart. It's very easy to overshoot an exit or item, so you have to be pretty quick with your reflexes. It's not the hardest in the world, but the constant motion can backfire if there are entrances that make you double back right away. These are obviously traps for the uninitiated. All the while, there is a countdown timer that is very fair, or at least it's fair at the beginning. Chances are you won't be paying much attention to the time limit because of the frantic action, but if you do need it extended, gathering masks will help you do that. There are a few other items to vary the gameplay, such as oil slicks, or maybe it's like a spill in a grocery store aisle that will slow you down if you touch it. Yeah, that seems to fit. And also, there are some death traps with keys and skulls, and I don't really know how to fit that in with the theme of the game. But you know, the skull does get the point across. COVID-19 is basically just Route 16, so this review covers both games, if you prefer to get this hack or the original game on the Famicom. This game is very fast and frantic and is very much a port of an arcade game, which means it's difficult and addictive. You know, quarter bait. Much like many old school arcade games, I really enjoy this game in short bursts. It's easy to get into, and it keeps me on my toes for the entire duration, but it can be rage-inducing when you lose. I'm not a controller smasher, but if you are, heads up. Put some padding on your walls. But honestly, I can't play this one for a long time. The gameplay is just too repetitive, and there doesn't feel like there's much incentive to keep going since there's no story and not tons of variation from level to level. But the novelty of the COVID gimmick is enough to pull you in and give you a bit of a chuckle. It's not for everyone since the pandemic has hit different people differently. For some, it has been more traumatic than for others, but to me, poking fun at something like the COVID-19 era is kind of cathartic. And coming out of the other end of the pandemic, we can reflect on the early days of it and try and have some fun. Much like Fake News Covfefe, as a hack, COVID-19 doesn't really stand on its own. It's merely a graphical swap to capture this unique moment in history. But since Route 16 was never released in North America, it may be worth it if you feel the original game is worth having in your collection. Or if you like the novelty of playing a shopping cart and stocking up on toilet paper, then this is good too. I enjoy it for the frantic, classic arcade gameplay. So in the end, I have to give COVID-19 3 out of 5 hand sanitizer bottles. That is a game worth playing. Thanks so much for watching the Repro Review Show, and we will see you next time.